This is the place to go to be in the know about SEO and CRO. Hello, my friend. This is Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Hold on to your brain. We have Duane Forrester on the Sales Podcast today, and man, he volunteered for me to get back to him in case I missed anything or have questions on anything. And I'm taking him up on that. Good grief, this guy is smart. We get into his whole history, but over 20 years working in the space of online marketing, of search engine optimization. We get into how it has evolved and what is next, including voice search, why SEO is more of a tactic now, and what the strategy is moving forward. We get into whether or not SEO is dead, and a hint, it is not, but it has evolved. And what can you do to get more business, turn more visitors into customers? He's the author of a couple of books in that space. So he talks a little bit fast, but just super smart guy, super passionate, very approachable. He's working at a company called Yext now, and we get a little bit into that. But this is chock full of some technical terms. I do my best to get him to kind of slow down and give us the layman's terms and definitions of that. And I always try to do that anyway. But it's a bit of a complex subject, but it is certainly manageable. I've built my business by mastering SEO for my own, blogs and videos and even the podcast. So you can teach yourself, but there are some things you need to be aware of. You need to know how to hire and retain contractors if you need that kind of help. So be sure to take some notes. Listen in closely. If you have questions, hit us up at theimplementors.com. It's our free group where people like you who implement and are willing to both mentor and be mentored can come to continue the conversation and continue your growth. All right, theimplementors.com. Now let's bring on Duane. Duane Forrester, guitar aficionado, also kind of good at this online kind of marketing stuff, all the way from Camarillo, California, my neighbor. Welcome to the Sales Podcast, man. How the heck are you?
I am incredible, Wes. Thank you very much for having me on today. I'm excited to be with you guys.
So, I noticed a trend here, man. You signed in and got all scheduled with a lowercase d, lowercase f. I find you on Twitter, got the little blue check marky thing, lowercase d, lowercase f. Is that kind of like Prince and Madonna, like they had just one name, but you just have the lowercase? Is that intentional?
Yeah, it actually is. But in my way of thinking is, I'm not a formal person, and therefore I don't want people thinking they need to approach me in some formal way. And that's just a little subtle touch, right? Of, look, if I'm not taking it that seriously, you shouldn't either. That's really what I'm saying with that.
Very nice. Yeah, but then you got this like formal picture with a sweater and all, man. You need to have a corncob pipe or something, or be blowing bubbles.
I work for a publicly traded company, right? There's many versions of Duane, right? I'm like the California onion, many layers.
And you have a unique background. I have a lot of entrepreneurs, bootstrapped entrepreneurs, people building stuff from home. But I mean, you come from big companies. You were a former SEO with MSN, being Webmaster Tools Launcher. You've written a couple of books. So you've got some big company experience, as well as, and we were talking before I hit record, you've got advice and insight on what the little guys can be doing. So
totally.
Can you walk us through that a little bit, just so people know? I mean, I was reading some of the different things online. You're over at Yext now, but I mean, 20 plus years, right? In search and optimization.
Yep.
So what's changed in 20 years of online search?
Well, I've gotten a lot more gray hair over that period of time, which is a technical point that people need to consider. How many gray hairs does Duane have? You optimize for that these days.
Yep.
No, the reality today is, I think the biggest change is that you have to be And this applies whether you're large or small, because I've run my own websites. I own 160 domains. I literally grew up. My parents ran a small motel. So I grew up in the truest sense in small business. And throughout my career, one thing that has remained constant, although often abused and disavowed and not necessarily focused on, even though spoken about, is the focus on the customer's actions and intentions and context. Today, we talk about that in terms of the customer journey. And it's kind of a tried and true, some would say maybe overused phrasing. But the fact of the matter is, if you are focused on what your customer needs in moments that matter to the customer, if you're focused on those, discovering those, and understanding how your product or service attaches to those discrete moments, you will be much more successful. Everything else will become a tactic against this strategy that you now have. And so that means the work that you're going to do in SEO, it's all tactical work. You're going to go in and do some technical things. You're going to focus on your content a certain way. You'll do keyword research. You'll go ahead and write that content. But all of it is with a very laser-focused point of contact in the consumer's journey. And I think that's the biggest change that we've seen. Because what we saw in the early days was, I'm not going to lie, people like me out there bastardizing a system, taking advantage of something. That's the early days of SEO. Hey, I think I can get an advantage by adding keywords here. I add keywords there. Suddenly I rank number one. You come behind me and you say, what if I double the number of keywords? Suddenly you're number one. And we all kind of learn and teach at the same time by doing those things. Today, all that crap doesn't work. The engines are very good at what they do, which is personalized, actual answers that are contextually relevant to each searcher individually. That's the state of where you're at. And, whether you're small or big, that's a daunting task to be the answer that any random person might ask their question around. But you really can boil it down. You really can bring it into focus and get yourself aligned and say, okay, well, this is what people are looking for. Keyword research will help you understand that. The usual and traditional keyword volumes are still good signposts, but not necessarily something that you have to you don't stack rank it by that and go forward. A lot of times keywords and keyword phrases are not the same as how we would speak. And increasingly, because of digital assistants and voice growing with Amazon Alexa and Google Home, because the natural language is now starting to permeate how we search, with people writing out their questions or saying their questions out loud, being able to align with that more normalized version of that conversation flow is much more important. And so the core keywords, the nouns and verbs that might have been in that actual phrase 5 years ago may have been the keywords that you wrote into your content, into the title of your page, into the URL of your page structure. Today, it's much more about, well, how would someone ask this question out loud? And then having that question on your page and continuing to answer from there. That will show a tighter alignment. 5 years ago, we kind of didn't really care about reviews. I mean, we all knew reviews were, useful. It was good to have the stars. Today, they're critical. The buying population that's out there today, largely the millennial group base, they're first and foremost, they're looking for third-party independent validation of a decision they're thinking of making. So they're looking for, I want 5 stars on 2,000 reviews. I feel good. I'll buy the product. Doesn't matter what mom and dad say. Doesn't matter what my friends say. In fact, mom and dad hold very much less sway. My friends, I want to impress my friends. So I would rather buy the product with independent validation, making me feel good, and then surprise my friends and be the thought leader of my friend group because I was the one that brought this new thing. That's a big deal to today's shoppers. 5-10 years ago, that just wasn't the way it was, right? The mentality of the shopper online was, hey, talk to me, sell me on it. It makes sense. Okay, I'll go talk to my friends and family. They like what I'm seeing. I shared the links. And okay, now I'll buy the product. And now you have to focus on reviews and ratings, not just because the consumer is looking at it, but because the search engines are looking at it deeply. They need to understand If they put your URL, your web page, your product, your service in front of one of their users, will their user be satisfied? And if the user is satisfied with you, then they'll be satisfied with the search engine. If the user doesn't like you, they will blame the search engine. So they're very careful about that. There's been a lot. I mean, technical changes as well. I mean, you have to have secure websites today. Your page load speeds have to be super fast. You have to be mobile friendly. There's all of this. There's a whole concept today called digital knowledge management. And it encompasses digital knowledge management, DKM. And that is, it's a noun and a verb, okay? It encompasses all of the digital work you are going to do. And what it does is helps you need to identify every digital asset that your business has. So that could be things like name, address, phone number, the usual stuff. It could be your official social media locations where you'd want to share those and connect those, all the way down to white papers that people in your company may have written, or your biographies for the C-suite if you're a larger company. It could be videos that you have. It could be anything that you're willing to put in front of the public that's related to your business. That is a digital entity. It's a digital asset that you need to curate. And in understanding all of those objects related to your business, you now have a bucket of items that you can choose from to amplify in different directions, to work on, to optimize, to showcase, and to engage people with. That work ultimately is an extension of your paid search work, your SEO work, your social media management, and so on. And the umbrella for that would be considered digital knowledge management. Now, if you flip that coin over, you've got a career path in digital knowledge management as well. Because I came up the last 20 years watching careers in SEO get to the point where you could be a senior level practitioner of SEO and a senior title in a company. And that is much less prevalent today. Over the last 4 years, we've seen that come down. And we've seen SEO become more of a tactic and less of a strategy. And if it's less of a strategy, you don't need a senior person for it. You need someone who's good tactically to execute on it. So if you are doing that kind of work and you want to move your career forward, digital knowledge management, touching on all of the facets of digital marketing, is kind of what you want to be doing. You need to be good at all of these pieces to move your career vertically. That's ultimately what it is. So there's a whole lot to that, obviously.
Good grief.
Yeah.
So I don't even know where I got to pour a whiskey, and we might be here a while.
Totally.
So in other words, SEO isn't dead. Is that what you're telling me?
No, not far from it. I mean, SEO came from being kind of like a bunch of people wandering around the office speaking Latin to turns out everybody else knew a little bit of Latin as well. I'm not going to say that it's any less arcane, but it's become much more mainstream now. It's much more straightforward. In fact, SEO is almost at the point where it's entirely commoditized. You can take a plugin, put it into a WordPress blog, and if you fill in the blanks in that plugin, 85% of your SEO is covered. So that really democratizes it for a lot of people, whether they're technical or not. The next generation of SEO, though, is very technical. It is all of the structured data markup. It is URL management. It is page speed management, load times. It is all of this esoteric stuff designed to satisfy the needs of the digital systems being built, the digital agents being built at Microsoft, at Amazon, and at Google. And if you can provide them your information in nicely packaged ways, they suddenly like it more. They're more apt to use it. You'll rank higher. You will become the spoken result when someone asks a question out loud. You are the spoken answer. And that's kind of where we're transitioning. So SEO, far from being dead, is going to become a very foundational piece. I've always thought it was foundational, but that might be a little self-serving, given I have a 20-year career in that industry. Right. Now, if you don't have your technical ducks in a row from an SEO standpoint, you will not surface in the next generation of search, which is powered by voice. You simply will not. And that's big brand, small brand. You won't, because consumer brand loyalty is sliding faster than ever. So the consumer just wants to know 5 stars, 2,000 reviews. Less concerned about the brand behind it.
So What does that mean? What does that mean? You say a brand, like, I'm an Apple guy.
Yeah.
Right? They've made some mistakes. I'm not switching.
Right.
So in that regards, I'm loyal. Mm-hmm. But I guess on things I'm not passionate about, you're right. It's like
all the stuff you shop every day for on Amazon.
Yeah.
You could be going to your local store for that.
Right.
You could be going direct to the manufacturer. You may be buying an off-brand product that does essentially the same thing. That's the slide. Plus, and I can't stress this enough, you and I may be a little aged for this part of the conversation.
I think I got to end this right now. I don't like where you're going with this.
We come from a I
have 7 kids. All right, I've earned these wrinkles and this gray hair.
Let's say you and I come from a more romantic age. Let's put it that way.
Nice.
And what we see behind us, the generations coming up behind us. So if we use the monikers of millennial and Gen Z, for example, the challenge that we face with that is their brand loyalty is sliding. So they wake up in the morning and they decide, let's say you're one of the 10 millennials that actually owns an automobile, and you decide, hey, I need new tires for my car. Okay. I know exactly what I'm going to go buy. I know the brand, know the model. It's very straightforward. I've been loyal to this brand forever. It's what I put on my automobiles. Off we go. That's not the same conversation that's happening with today's younger shoppers. They're much more price conscious. They are much more likely to trade brand for price. And they are much more open in a marketplace where brands white label themselves into other products. So essentially, they do still get the same quality product, just a completely different moniker attached to it. Whereas an older generation of shopper is more likely to skew to the brand they know. And so that means there's a sliding movement that happens, right? We also see, you've got Amazon to shop with online, you've got Jet to shop with online, you've got Target, you've got Walmart, you've got all these places. My local grocery chain offers same-day delivery of my orders now. It's getting really hard for companies to really engender brand loyalty. Right. What is getting easier to do, though, is to prove your value in that moment when the consumer is looking for something. And if you prove your value a few times to a consumer when they're in the middle of their choice and their process, they remember you. And if we take that and extend it further into the world of voice, you have the opportunity in voice to not only answer the question and be useful in the moment, but you do have a way to ensure that the consumer says your brand name out loud enough times that it cements the memory of your brand firmly in their mind. That doesn't mean they won't actively choose a different solution the next time, but you are top of mind with them. I mean, there's an entire physiological discussion around how we build long-term memory. And one of the ways you do that is repeating something out loud over and over. You literally add protein layers to a synaptic connection in your brain when you say something out loud. And the more frequently you do that, the more layers of protein are there, the stronger the memory. So if you look at something like Amazon's Alexa, and you look at the ability to create a skill in there, any business can do this. All the documentation is freely available. You simply go through the flow, fill in the blanks, and now you have an enclosed ecosystem within which the consumer has to repeat your business name or the phrase you want them to repeat in order to engage with you. So if you have a compelling enough environment with compelling enough information and they want to be in there, you can have them say your brand over and over and over and over. This is huge.
So in other words, it's kind of like Heisenberg in Breaking Bad, huh?
Yes.
Say my name.
Yes.
Do we have to take the glasses off?
No. And maybe with a little more love and affection, right?
I don't care how you say it. Just say my name, go to my website, buy my stuff.
Exactly. And that's, I mean, if you break it down, really what we're doing is human conditioning. That's what this is ultimately doing. And we do this every day. You get up in the morning, you make your coffee, you sip your coffee staring out the window. You are conditioning yourself that is your morning routine. Right. And when you do not do that, you feel out of sorts. You feel like your morning is not off to the right start because your pattern, your habit has been broken. And so in the voice world, brands, any business, in fact, can be a brand, and every business has the opportunity to allow those consumers, to guide those consumers, to condition themselves that you are a part of their habit. And that's what we're getting to. In fact, I'm going to plug a book here, Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Cannot stress enough how important it is for businesses to read that book. Okay. That book is huge. And it's a little bit older now, but the message in it around habit and being able to attach to a consumer habit, that can be life-changing in your business.
So we're talking about search and voice search. Mm-hmm. All right. I think the power of habit, why we do what we do in life and business.
That's him. Yep. Right. That's the one.
Got it here. And we will link to that. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about voice search, and I'm sure there's going to be some advertising ways to leverage that. But for right now, it sounds like what you're talking about, this is just coming up in an organic voice search, right? How to position yourself, your company, your offering. Yeah. So you pop up on a voice search.
Yes.
Right.
And you actually touch on something really important here, Wes. We are early days. Okay. Now, I say we're early days. Consumers are adopting this stuff like wildfire, like nothing else we've seen. The adoption curve of smartphones and mobile devices looks pathetically stagnant compared to the adoption curve of voice-enabled digital assistants. So not only did you have the digital assistants all of a sudden show up on hardware in our phones, there was a day before Siri and there was a day after Siri. There was a day before Cortana and a day after Cortana. The hardware didn't necessarily change, but the capabilities of it changed dramatically.
Right.
This past holiday season, the number one selling item by far was Amazon's Echo Dot. And that was because they got in a race with Google to the bottom of the price pool. And it was $20, come get your hardware. So early adopters would come in at $200. And that would keep out a lot of, so if you look at the demographic purchasing, so 0 to 75K household income a year, they weren't purchasing. 75 to 150, they weren't purchasing. Over 150K a year, those people were adopting at $200, $300 an object. Because they're early adopters, they have the disposable income. It's not a big deal. They want that access to technology, but ultimately they make up a small percentage of users as natural. Well, when you drop the price point with the same access to the same artificial intelligence-powered digital assistants to a $20 price point, everyone can afford one now.
Sure.
Affordability isn't the problem. In fact, just last month on the earnings call with Google, one of the analysts suggested that Google flood the market with free Google Home Minis to anybody who wanted one. Their calculations suggested it would cost Google $3 billion or so, but then they would own the hardware side of the equation. I don't know whether Google's going to do that or not, but it's a fascinating thought exercise and could actually happen. And then it would take away the entire conversation about who has access, because everyone now has access.
Right.
And suddenly you go from a couple of people asking a few questions randomly to everyone in America using these things to check the weather, read my calendar, find out about news, all of this stuff. And we see the statistics now that are shifting. These devices are already moving time from consumers' lives. They're moving them away from smartphones, away from the television, away from radio, away from computers and tablets to the smart speaker. So as a business, you have to wrap your head around, okay, well, what's the experience like for a consumer with me in the voice world?
Right.
Go get yourself one of these devices or take a shortcut, download the app on your phone and use the app to start showing you stuff. And you'll very quickly understand the consumer experience. And then you have to start optimizing for that. Luckily, most of the work in optimizing around voice is well known. It's already out there. It's the technical SEO stuff that these people just haven't gotten done yet. Now you have to do it. It's no longer optional.
So
that's the reality.
What do you mean? Or is it just they're just following old school best practices of SEO?
A lot of it is, but we need to mix in some of the more current elements. So
Okay.
I'm talking about things like ensuring your mobile page speeds are fast. So staying on top of that and not being complacent and saying they're fast enough. Go and test yourself against your competitors. And then you'll understand if you're fast enough. If you're faster than all of your competitors, for the moment, you're fast enough. But as your competitors start to catch up and start to outpace you, you then have to load your pages faster as well. Right. You have to make sure that you have a secure environment. If you're not secure right now and you try to navigate to your website on a Chrome browser, which is the largest by market share browser that's out there, you will see a warning message telling you that the website's not secure.
Right.
Well, that's the kiss of death right there. So you don't want that. You want to make sure that structured data is something that you are working with morning, noon, and night, marking up all of these elements. So everything that I talked about previously under that DKM, digital knowledge management kind of headspace, right? All these objects that are digital assets for your business, all of those items can be marked up with structured data. And then you have the ability now to feed that in a trusted, structured way into the search engine. And what that sets up your ability to be that answer box at the top of the search results.
Right.
So featured snippet, position 0, whatever you want to call it. If you can be that, and that's your goal, that's why I say a lot of this work is known, because that's what you're chasing. And if you can become that answer, then you stand the best chance of being spoken out loud. Right now, 80% of Google's voice answers are coming from those featured snippets. So that technical work still needs to be done. Now, what you mentioned, the best practices for SEO. Yeah, absolutely. So anytime you find best practices out there that are straight from the search engine, I wrote them for Bing. I know they're out there for Google. Like those types of things are available. You do want to follow those. But let me be clear. Those are great. Those are signposts. The search engines aren't going to write something that is a total document because they can't give away the secret sauce. So you do have to understand the current landscape. But as you start to dig into it, what you realize are things like not only deploying structured data, but having reviews and ratings on your website and making sure that people are leaving commentary, having active social media footprints where you're engaging with people, because the engines are seeing the totality of all of what you're doing.
Right.
And if you're a lot of people are talking about you in social media and you're not a part of the conversation, then you don't look to be as good an answer to the search engine. What if Google puts you out front and says, here, searcher, trust me, this is a good answer. And then that searcher decides they need to talk to you and you don't talk back. Right. That reflects poorly on Google versus a competitor who is actively engaging via social media. So it's a very, it's a broader ecosystem, I think, that today's SEO plays in and
right.
has to be successful in.
So you keep mentioning, what is it, structured data?
Yes.
So what is that in layman's terms?
Okay. So when you add structured data to your website, these are elements. It's a language. And what it does is effectively allows you to wrap something. So let's say your phone number on your website. It allows you in the code base of your web page. So a consumer would not see these elements. The search engines would see these when they crawl the code base of your web page. The elements get wrapped around your phone number. So there's an opening element that says this is the phone number, and there's a closing element that says that was the phone number. And when you turn that on and you republish the page, the search engine looks at it and says, I recognize that language you've added because I approve of that language. And therefore, I trust that that object is your phone number for the business. And the website, there's a website you want to go to for this. Google and Bing have a jointly supported language that they refer people to. And the website is schema.org. It's schema.org. In there is an extraordinarily deep library of elements that you can choose from. And there are literally thousands of options. There is almost nothing on this planet that can be displayed on the internet that can't be marked up. Everything can be marked up in some way. And as a catch-all, there's one element in there called thing. So if you can't find an actual name for your product or service or whatever it is you're trying to describe, you can wrap it with thing tags and it will get picked up. So there's always that. Now, there are several other languages that a business can choose from. Facebook has their Open Graph protocol, and there are many others. They're all valid. They're all valid. The search engines will consume them. They will read them. They will trust them. They will do that. And the reason they trust them is because for you to have them on your page means you have to have access to your server. You have to have access to the code for your website pages, and you have to then go do the work to deploy these things. So that's a pretty big work effort for you to undertake. And then when you do this, the search engine's reward is, oh, okay, you've done that. You've proven that it's you. You've proven that you're investing. And therefore, we trust that object is your phone number. You said it was your phone number. This is your official phone number, and there it is. And so what that does is that helps protect against things like somebody goes into Google Maps today. You can look at a product or a location for a business. And one of the things that you're able to do is suggest an edit. So if I don't think that the phone number is correct or I don't think the street address is accurate, I can suggest that edit to the system.
Right.
And if I go in as a consumer and suggest a change of phone number for you, and Google sends that to you, and you say, oh, okay, then Google's going to update the phone number that they show the consumer in search, even though your website has a different phone number. And so that's relatively easy to make a mistake around and have that change happen. But if your elements are marked up, it's much less likely to happen because Google is saying, no, you have officially stated this is your actual phone number.
Gotcha.
And you've gone through the effort to say, I officially state this object as my official phone number. So anything else that comes up has to fight to prove that it's more official than what's been marked up. So
I use HubSpot now as my COS. They got to rename CMS.
Of course.
And I did notice a while back that I had the OG, man. I'm not an OG.
Yeah, OG. Totally.
OG dog. And I didn't do it. Right. So I got to assume there's some smart people over there making that happen. So for the entrepreneur that's sitting on GoDaddy or Bluehost running, a theme forest, $49 WordPress theme, running Yoast SEO plugin, is that happening automatically, or do they have to go?
You have to take the action.
You have to hire somebody to do it? Is there?
Well, you can. I mean, I'll be completely transparent. Yoast is actually a personal friend of mine, and I use that plugin for all of my WordPress installations. What you want to do is go into the plugin.
You don't even have to call him Mr. Yoast. He makes me call him Mr. Yoast, but I mean, you get to call him Yoast.
Oh yeah, totally.
Man, you're legit. You're legit.
Totally. The next time you talk to him, you tell him I said it's okay for you to drop the Mr.
Say I talked to lower D, lower F, and he
exactly
says, "What up, Yoast?"
Exactly. And then he's going to say who, and then it's. But here's the reality. The reality is this is manageable by the average person. Okay, so you are a small business. You're paying $50 a month for your hosting, and it's an all-inclusive thing. You can add plugins to your WordPress that will allow you to then go in and fill in the structured data markup. Now, whether that's OG, the Open Graph from Facebook, whether it's schema.org stuff, doesn't really matter. Okay, you've got OG. You can actually go look through Facebook's protocols. It will list out what all the elements are, and then you'll be able to look at HubSpot and say, oh, well, here are the ones that are available to me. Oh, yeah, you know what? I am going to put my official name in and my email address and like all of that stuff. And then you'll hit save and nothing. Your world won't change. But it's all to the better. So, it is worth doing. The flip side is if you have a programmer or a developer, you can have them hard code these elements into the HTML of your website. You may have a custom e-commerce platform that you're working with, or you've customized an e-commerce platform that you're working with, and you can add these elements right into that page.
Right.
My fervent wish is that when folks do this, they do it in a templated manner so that they're not having to touch multiple pages. They're touching one page template, and then they use these different elements. Right. They can, update whatever the actual object is based on the category for the object within their hierarchy of products.
Right.
So it is technical, but it is approachable by the small business all the way to the large business. And this is why I feel, and I think I'm right, but I could be proven wrong.
I thought I was wrong one time, but I was mistaken.
Oh, see, I thought I was wrong one time, and it was proven to be true. The reality is that we often think about the web in terms of brand equity, right? And branded search on branded search. We have all of this kind of zeitgeist around brand that smaller businesses think, brand's eating my lunch. I can't compete. I can't. And that's not actually true. And it's never been less true than today. Today, the challenge for a big brand is, and I know this coming firsthand from an organization like MSN, to get work done is a multi-month process.
Yep.
And that assumes that people listen to me. So it's not as simple as go turn on structured data. It's I have to make a case for it. I have to show what the ROI is going to be. And then I have to get in the mix with every other project that's fighting for development resources and prove that I'm the one who should get the development resources, not these other projects. And so that's the big company side of things.
Right.
The small guy doesn't have that overhead. If you want to go fill in your OG stuff at HubSpot, that's a conversation between you, your 11 children, and your pot of coffee, because that's what you're doing between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. this morning when you have some free time.
Yeah.
Like you're just going to go fill in the blanks. And that's what the small business owner is doing on Wednesday morning between 11 and 11:30. They're filling in those blanks.
Right.
The beauty of that is because we're moving into this world of voice activated conversational results, those types of elements are mattering more and more. And I'll give you some proof of this. 3 months ago, Google made a very small, low-key announcement.
Yeah.
And they made several, but this one...
And it rocked the world.
Yeah, this one flew under the radar, though. And this is what it was. So up until this point, it was largely, if you did structured data, you did it. If you didn't, you didn't. If you did structured data, then you could be shown in rich results, and you could have stars next to your name in the search results and things like this, right? They matter, but it's not necessarily a line in the sand, if you will. Okay. A popular website with a popular product that has good reviews, even if they didn't have structured data, could still end up having the search engine inject that data on their behalf because the engine believes that's what's best for the searchers. So it could happen without this path, basically. But what Google said was, if you were in the podcast, if you were in the breaking news, or you were in the recipes categories, and somebody did a voice search, and they believed your result was the best answer, they would construct on the fly an action. And I'll come back and explain what this is in a moment. But what it allowed to happen was that you were the spoken answer. And the trigger point for this was whether you had or did not have structured data around that content. If you didn't have it, you wouldn't be spoken out loud. If you did have it, you'd be spoken out loud. And this is a powerful moment, because it's exceedingly rare that a search engine has this moment where they say, there's a line in the sand. You're either in or you're out. And if we look at history, we see things like AMP, the accelerated mobile pages. When Google started with that, it was breaking news, that's all. We're not coming for your content, just breaking news, that's all. Today, you can sell basketballs on AMP pages. Everything can be amped.
Right.
And so it's plausible that we might see the structured data take on a similar footprint where all of a sudden, if you have it, things are just happening with you. Versus if you don't have it, you're not included in what's happening. So you come back to who can deploy faster. Smaller organizations and independents can deploy faster than larger organizations. And they can do it with much less risk, because a larger organization goes ahead and rolls out an update. If there's an error in it, it could bring down a server. It could take them offline. It could block sales. It could break something in their system. Small guy does this, hits refresh, a page is in there, looks at the programmer goes, oh crap, hang on. Oh, I found the problem. Hits refresh, page is back. Like, And that allows you then to be the answer for the consumer. Mm-hmm. And consumers today know there are so many answers, so many businesses providing products. You only need go for a moment and look around Amazon's marketplace. You will see products you want, products you like, products you recognize, sold by companies you've never heard of and that you think are just made up. That's because they are. It's just a made up name, but it doesn't mean that the product's not legitimate. The product's completely legitimate. And so that has trained consumers who are also searchers to accept other and various forms of input coming to them as more trustworthy.
Right.
But ultimately, it all foundationally comes down to the data. Garbage in, garbage out. So if you're not marking up your stuff, you don't have structured data deployed, if you don't have the best practices in SEO deployed, you don't have fast page load speeds, you don't have a secure website, you're not in the game. Right. That's the baseline of SEO today. Used to be meta tags. Now it's all of this. Right. So yeah, SEO, it's got a bright future ahead of it. It's just going to be shining in the background more. Tactical, not strategic.
So can we go back this AMP? I remember, golly, it's almost 2 years now when I was at Inbound, HubSpot's Inbound. And I mean, they were proud, man, of AMP.
Yeah.
And I'm Googling, what is AMP? Siri, what is AMP?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't know that yet.
Yeah. And so, now, the nice thing, and Google's sending me these alerts, some kind of AMP warning, blah, blah. I send it to my people. I'm like, what the heck does this mean? It looks scary. And they're like, we're on top of it.
Yeah.
So what exactly, in layman's terms, accelerated mobile pages?
That's what it stands for.
Okay.
And here's the way to think of it. If you look at your website, and honestly, this isn't a judgment, but this is a generalization about websites. If you look at your website's a fairly heavy experience in terms of kilobytes for a page. And this affects your page load speeds, okay? Bigger images, embedded videos that you need to wait to load so that the page is finalized, lots of text, you've got background graphics, you've got a logo on there, you've got all of that stuff. It makes for a, quote, heavy web page, all right? An accelerated mobile page, think of it as black text on a white background. Simple images that are sized to be small to fit in the mobile environment and nowhere else. You have a much more lightweight code base, and therefore the pages load exponentially faster for the consumer. And the reason this is being pursued is because the final mile from the cell tower to my phone it's a jungle. Like sometimes it's great, sometimes it sucks. And I'm in the airport, I've got full bars and connectivity. I get on the airplane, I'm in a Faraday cage, and I've got one bar. And even the simplest of pages, Facebook, for example, can take minutes to load on my page, on my device. And Google knows, Bing knows, every business knows, the longer it takes for that page to load, the less satisfied I am with you as a consumer. And normally you're blaming who you just asked. So if I'm looking for a result and I click on it, it's not loading, it's not loading, it's not loading, it's not loading, naturally I will blame my cell carrier, but that's kind of like a baseline. That's like breathing, okay? Like we just default to this. Then I'm going to blame Google because you're sending me to a crappy result. Why would you do that, Google? And so Google's, stake in this game is, well, if we can convince the websites to make lighter pages that load faster, then the consumer experience improves. And to be clear, Google and Bing do a lot of user testing. I mean, down to the pixel level on pages, okay, to determine what resonates with consumers. And by and large, if they're pushing out AMP and suggesting that it's good, it's because consumers just want what they want and then they want to leave. It's that simple.
Right.
Your advertising you have on the web page, your sign-up pieces that pop up, your leave-behind advertising, consumers don't care about any of that. And so what Google is suggesting is strip all that out and give me the lightweight version, and that's what we show. Right. And so there's not like if you have an AMP page, you suddenly rank better or something like that. But in a competitive environment where everyone is the same, if you have an AMP page, the AMP page will probably be returned before your website's regular web page. And if you're the only one with that, you will have a competitive advantage then over all of your competitors. Right. So it's all about stripping out some of that user experience and streamlining it. Now, you can imagine this is at odds for a lot of publishers with how are they monetizing? How are they doing these things? And so over the last couple of years, Google has worked really hard to be able to create systems that allow for you to keep an embedded advertisement, but still return a very fast load speed. Now, hopefully later this fall, if all goes according to the master plan of the universe, we should see 5G spots starting to roll out across the United States in major metropolitan areas. Right. Couple of things still have to happen because this is not a panacea. It's not a quick cure for anything. First off, you will still have to have lightning fast page load speeds. You don't get a pass because the final mile sped up. They don't look at that and say, oh, that's okay. Website, you can be lazy. They want websites that are building better experiences. So you still have to focus on that. Yeah. The challenge is going to be that only a few devices right now have the hardware capable of accessing 5G material and 5G connectivity. Most of the smartphones we have, the chips that are in them do not have 5G capability. And so you're going to need that upgrade cycle of hardware happening in order for consumers to see the benefit of it. And therefore, then the benefit is passed on to the business in terms of higher satisfaction rates. Right. The challenge with that is consumers are holding on to phones longer than ever. So, if the timing is wrong on this, like I was part of the iPhone 10 upgrade cycle, I will still have that phone another 2 years from now. So it's like you got to wait 3 years to get me on 5G. Right. And as a business, if you're relying on 5G speeds to help speed you along, that's not going to work for me. Right. So then my satisfaction remains low and that kind of thing. But here's the important thing that businesses need to take away from this, because this gets complicated in a hurry. So let's take this and simplify it right down. Go use the tools that the search engines are putting out there and that are freely available that allow you to test your page load speeds. Much like you take your blood pressure reading once a week and you report it back to your doctor, once a week, check your page load speeds, see how things are doing. Make sure that they're staying steady. If you notice that they're starting to get slower, then you probably added stuff to your website that is slowing that down, and you want to re-examine that. And just go through that. More importantly, create a list of what your numbers look like versus your competitors. Because if your competitors are noticeably faster than you, then you have immediate work to do. If you are noticeably faster than them, it's just maintenance mode. You just watch and see, and you keep an eye on them, maybe once a month, check and see if they're catching up to you. That's it. The reality with AMP pages makes sense for a lot of people, because if you just have content that you're sharing and you're not monetizing, then that's fantastic. It's a great step forward. Do you have to have them? No, you do not. Right. If you turn them on, do they in and of themselves automatically give you a ranking boost? No, it is not that straightforward. You will see a ranking boost if you're the only one and everyone else is still slow. But it's not a ranking boost because you turned on AMP. It's you showing up because Google prefers the faster experience. So that's the reward for it. As soon as everyone else does it, you're right back to wherever you were, because then the playing field is level again. And so if you were, sucking wind previously in mobile results, well, once everybody else has an AMP page, you'll be sucking again in that environment. So you have to work on some other things.
So making something, creating an AMP page or site, is that as easy as adding a WordPress plugin to get the open graph and structured data going, or is that more of a forklift?
It's not a forklift, but it's, let's say, a pallet lift. Yeah. So, it's not as easy as hand tools and you just walk around with your tool belt on and you hit some nails here and there. You are constructing pages. So the beauty of it, though, is you are given a format. So you can literally take from what Google offers and then build within that framework. So if you are capable of building these pages and maintaining them, then you will be capable of building and maintaining AMP pages. So it's just another type of page for yourself. Some businesses have had challenges because they have their original web page and then they have an AMP version of the web page. And it starts to become problematic when you're hosting both and both of them get indexed, and then which one should be returned. And some people will think, oh, well, the AMP one will get people interested. And then when they click through, they'll go to the real one. And that's where all my conversions happen. It could happen, but you've added another click in the path to conversion. And that is not good.
Right.
So a lot of folks will tell you the best way to approach this is optimize your website. Make your web pages as fast as they can be. And when you do that, that might mean getting rid of the big graphic image in the background on your web page. And that's fine. But understand, maybe you can still have that image in the background because the screen sizes you're dealing with on mobile devices are small. Right. And so if you tailor the image size so that it fits that screen instead of a 24-inch monitor, then it still has the experience you want. The consumers are still happy. And your default, your graceful degradation at that point is for the desktop experience. So the desktop doesn't get the bright, shiny background. The desktop gets the white background because you're not going to show the tiny image stretched out and pixelated. But your mobile experience looks like what you want, which is kind of fine because, like, I think it's close to 80% of internet sessions are on mobile devices today. So you can, like, it's okay to tailor your work for that. I mean, Google and Bing are mobile first. There's a reason for that. Right. So you've got some latitude in there.
Well, you just convinced me I made the right move, switching to HubSpot. I don't want to mess with all that stuff. I'm happy having somebody do that for me.
Right. And that's the beauty today. I mean, and this may be an inflection point for companies who are sitting with their hosting company thinking, oh, they're trying to bleed me dollar by dollar for this added service and that added service. Well, throw them an extra $20 a month and take those services. Like, have them do that work, right? Like, turn that stuff on and fill in the blanks and then off to the races. Because ultimately, that's where we're at today. This is what it takes to be successful moving forward. And this is also why I say we're at this huge inflection point, because consumer behavior change is driving what the search engines are doing.
Right.
And ultimately, the search engines have to give the consumers what they believe is the best moment in time. So far, we don't have a paid option in voice. It's only organic.
Right.
So get in, cement your advantage now, and that will pay dividends over the next decade for you. Eventually, there will be paid models around this, but we don't know what that looks like. I mean, if you take the traditional paid model and you put it into voice, that means whoever has the deepest pocket automatically is the only answer. Right. And that's not a good experience, not for consumers. So, I mean, how much of the consumer's journey is discovering another product when they scroll through the search results and saying, oh, no, this is the one I want. And it was the fourth one in the list. You know, you don't get that in voice. Consumers are saying, this is what I want. I want a blue sweater. Okay, blue sweater, here you go. And, you know, we still have to get to that layer of, is it royal blue or is it cobalt blue? Is it navy blue? Is it sky blue? Because when I get the sweater, if I'm thinking navy blue and you send me baby blue, I'm going to be like, return that crap. So, you know, there's still a lot that has to that we have to go through. But now is that moment, and smaller businesses have that advantage of being able to move quickly and at a much lower price point. Right. I mean, if you're one of these large companies and you want to go ahead and deploy structured data across your entire website, this could be $1 million project in your company.
Right.
And I guarantee you are going to take your time making that decision and weighing where you spend the $1 million in resourcing. Is it on that project? Is it on this project? Is it over here to drive more revenue and sales? Is it over here for, you know, client retention? Like there's all of that because it's that big a deal. Right. When you're a small business and this is a $50 inflection point, I'm saying find the $50. Right. Like that is valuable to you because that is going to help you grow that business more and more as consumers shift.
Right. Man, lots to think about. Totally. All right. I asked this question now of everybody. It's my last question, but I really need the answer from you.
Okay.
So I say, you know, imagine our listeners, they're on that crappy airplane about to back out. They're jogging on a treadmill. They're on a mountain bike. They're stuck in traffic. They can't do any of this right now.
Yes.
But I want my listeners, the whole reason I do this is not just to have them, you know, waste an hour. I want them to take action. I want them to apply themselves. So you gave us a mouthful, a head full, I don't know, a heartache full potential. I know there's some listeners stressing out.
Oh, yeah, totally.
All right.
And they shouldn't. This is manageable.
That's what's the one thing? What should they do when they can get to their desk? Or should they call somebody? If they call a contractor, if they call a techie whiz kid person at their company, what should they do as a result of listening to this that they can put into practice right now? First thing.
I'm giving them two things. One, they are going to pick up a piece of paper and a pen, because I don't care if you're on an airplane or you're at a coffee shop, you can do this exercise. They're going to write out in detail what they believe their customer's journey looks like. So start with, what is my product or service? Talk about the scenario in which a consumer would seek that product or service, and map out all of the decisions that the consumer has to go through to get to the point where they discover you and then feel that you are the correct object for them. So you write out that entire script, and then you're going to organize some focus groups, and you're going to talk to your consumers, and you're going to hear it in their words, and you're going to see if you're even in the ballpark. My gut tells me, and my experience tells me, most people are going to be fairly left or right of center on this one. They are not going to overlap what the customer is actually saying. And that gives you then a very clear path to understand, oh, wait, so you find me because you're looking for something else, but you believe I'm a part of that process. So you buy my screwdriver because you're trying to hang a new light in your home and you don't have the tool. In order to have the tool, you have to come get the screwdriver.
Right.
Whereas as the manufacturer of the screwdriver, I'm thinking your focus is, I woke up this morning saying I need a new screwdriver. No. And it's a very different scenario when I feel I want the screwdriver versus I need it to accomplish something else. My interest in the screwdriver is different. Therefore, how you sell to me is different. So go through that exercise.
Yeah.
Now, the second thing that everybody is going to do is they're either going to take the Alexa app on their smartphone, or better, they are going to go to an Amazon Alexa device at the office, in their living room, wherever it is, and they are going to say, hey, Alexa, let's chat. And what that is going to do is it's going to power up an experience in the background of Alexa, where Alexa is going to ask you a bunch of questions. It is going to walk you through a conversation, and you are going to learn what the future of engagement through these digital services and digital assistants looks like. Because that Let's Chat feature is the result of a competition that Alexa had with universities to design a system that was capable of having a conversation with a person for 20 minutes or more. I have given up at 40 minutes because it will not stop. It will keep going. You know you're talking to a machine the whole time. You're not confused in any way about this. But the ability for this system to continue the conversation by asking relevant questions and bringing forward information that is germane to your answer and engaging you to ask for feedback and continuing shows you the complexity and the sophistication of these systems. That's the world tomorrow's consumer will be living in when they're looking for your product and service. You have to understand what that looks like now before you can answer any of these other questions. And when you do this exercise, it will actually get you creatively engaged in thinking, well, if my consumer is asking for this stuff and this stuff is just being spoken out loud, I should just write my content and be the answers all over the place. And yeah, you should be. So those are my two things. Map what you think the customer journey is, and then go discover it in their eyes and directly by talking with them. And then go have a chat with Alexa and see what the future holds for consumers.
Yeah, and I'll put a link to this, and I call it process before login. You know, I've had that for years, and while all this stuff is important, right? It's like having the best oven in the whole wide world, but you don't know how to cook, you know, or you know how to cook, but you don't have the ingredients.
Exactly.
You know, you gotta have a good offering to even make all of this stuff even matter.
Yes, and what's I think really key to this is, it has to matter to you. As the business owner, you have to have that moment of epiphany where you say, I see something. Listening to you and listening to me, that's great. Gives you signposts, gives you ideas, helps spur your creative thinking, gives you things to research. But it's the aha moment where you get it, where you connect things. And that's what you need to seek as the business owner. Because when you have that aha moment, it hits you with such clarity that you immediately know your path forward. You don't need to ask anyone what the path forward is. You have all the information you need, and now you see how these pieces fit together, and you're on your way.
Yep. I keep telling people, remember, there's a human being at the other end of that computer screen, at the other end of that smartphone.
Yep.
Right? So make sure you connect with them. Well, very cool. I'm glad we connected.
Yeah, this was great.
Forrester, lower D, lower F, friend of Yoast, guitar maker. All right, man, bring one of those guitars to Temecula, and we'll do a little wine tasting. I'll take you to my favorite spot, and we'll talk about amp and search, and maybe not. Maybe we'll just drink and play the guitar.
That works. Either one, I'm happy.
Very cool. Well, thanks for coming on the show, man. Have a great day.
Definitely. Thanks, Wes.
I told you. You were warned at the beginning, right? Man, what a smart dude. Got to go back and listen to that multiple times. I was even taking notes and I was missing stuff. Getting into digital known management, DKM, curate your digital assets, load speed, responsive, security. SEO is more of a tactic than a strategy, so get good at DKM. There are a lot of things happening today in the world of SEO, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing to evolve, to stay on top of it. How we consume data, how we research, how we engage is changing. It's changing for our prospects as well. Is your competition making the changes? Chances are good that they are bogged down with the merely urgent instead of the truly important, and they're not staying on top of these things. So make the move, okay? Apply these changes. Stay on top of things. If you need help, let me know. I do some private coaching, but I can also help refer you to some folks. I've got other places as well, theimplementors.com. It's a free group. Come hang out and ask your questions, okay? Join the Make Every Sale course, makeeverysale.com. You can join right now for $47, and it's a forced discontinuity. That means if you don't actively enroll at the end of the 30 days, I kick you out, and then you can't join for a year. That's a bummer. But at least you're not like accidentally bumped into something. But even though I focus on the sale, how to engage, there's a lot of overtime, right? I take questions after the structured calls every single week. And it can be on anything. But the reality is how you engage in person, if you get better at that, you're going to get better at engaging online. This directly applies to SEO because that's one of the things. I was just interviewed last week, and a guy asked me, what do people not do? What do they forget? Or what is one of the big things I'm always working with people on? And it's the fact that everyone seems to forget that there's a human being on the other end of the screen. There's a human being at the other end of the telephone. Great salespeople have great empathy, and you can get into the mind of your prospects. You can walk a mile in their shoes. If you can do it in person, you can do it online. I think, and I know that most of the great marketers out there were great salespeople first. And at their core, they're great salespeople. So join the Make Every Sale program. MakeEverySale.com. It's just $47 for a full month. 41 pre-recorded videos, 70-page workbook, all types of supplemental documents already are in the site, and I keep adding to them. You'll get access to 4 live calls. Then you can decide how you want to enroll. Do a one lump sum, basically get a couple of months free, or pay monthly for 12 months. But regardless, once you are done paying, you're in for as long as I do this. I've had people enrolled for 4 or 5 years, going back to when I first created the program. I've grandfathered everyone in. So even as I've raised the price and added content, added calls, you stay in it. So, and because, repetition is the key to learning. I don't want you to jump into something and think, hey, just a few weeks or a month or whatever, and you're just going to be an expert. It doesn't happen that way. Plus, as you solve some of your problems, you get new problems. It's just life. Look at Elon Musk. He has different problems. Bill Gates, Warren Buffett. They don't have no problems. They just have different problems. So as your business grows, as you apply the principles that I teach, you become more successful. It opens the door to new things. The good news is they're all surmountable. You can handle them all. We'll help you with all of them. But you're going to have problems. I mean, that's what we do as entrepreneurs. That's what we do as business owners. We find problems and we solve them. Zig Ziglar said, you can have anything you want if you help enough people get what they want. So, I always say as well, there's only two reasons people don't do business with you. Either they haven't heard of you or they have. If they have, then that's another issue. If they haven't, that's where instruction like this from Duane Forrester comes in handy. It helps you get found online. But as you start applying this, there's always chaos in the weeds. You'll always take 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Can you endure? Who's in your corner? Who's on your side? Who's going to help you keep plugging away? That's where things like the Implementors, again, it's a free group. Go join it, theimplementors.com. We make every sale. We can help you get through those issues. I've been doing this now on my own for 12 years. I've run into a few issues, okay? I've interviewed over 300 people now with the CRM Sushi podcast. I need to go take a look, but I know it's over 350. And that doesn't count the interviews I've given, the people I've met at conferences and whatnot, the private consultations. So thousands of conversations over the years. And I know how to track something down to get you the best answer. So surround yourself with good people, all right? Go back, take lots of notes, go back and re-listen to this. Find Duane, follow him online, follow me online. Hey, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes or Google, wherever you listen, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. Send me a screenshot, wes@thesaleswhisperer.com, and I'll send you my sales training flashcards. I'll send you the digital version for free. I sell these for $20. That'll help you overcome some of the issues. Because again, when you understand how your prospects are thinking, when you understand their concerns, their objections, I don't want you to just overcome the objections. And at first you're going to have to. But ideally, you anticipate them. You prepare for them. You address them ahead of time. Create free reports. Create videos and tutorials, create MP3 downloads, what have you. Okay, create an email series that addresses the objection. So when your prospects call, they have 70 or 80 or 90% of the toughest issues handled. Now they just want to speak to a human, get the confidence that they're making the right step, and they'll pull the trigger. I'm telling you, it can happen. It does happen. It will happen. It happens for me. That's how I grow my business. But in the short term, we say you got to eat the rabbits while you're hunting the elephant. Having the sales training flashcards ahead of time will help you handle the toughest objections right now as you prepare to take them away and address them ahead of time. Okay. The other resource is my book, 79 Stories. So it takes more than a big smile, a good idea, and a Twitter account to build a business that lasts. Go get you a copy of that, 79 Stories. .info. Go do that, all right? I've gotten great reviews on that. You will like it. It's a compilation of 79 stories compiled over many years of writing the Weekly Whisper. It'll help you get motivated to go sell and make more money. If you need a speaker, hirethebestspeaker.com. I'll be traveling to Europe this November, speaking in Slovenia at a conference. I am going to be out and about a lot more moving forward. So I don't want to keep going to Europe, but you will see me around the western half of the U.S., southwestern U.S. as well. I like to be home, so being closer is good. But still, if you need a good speaker, let me know. hirethebestspeaker.com. Thanks for listening. Now go sell something.